So yeah, a couple of things I noticed while I was playing the beta of the week. Uh, well, I noticed a lot of things going on, but let's start with the maps. The maps are all kind of small in my opinion. Even the biggest map, that mountain map that we got, was kind of a bummer. I was hoping to see some larger scale maps. I know some people prefer the small ones, and I like those too, but it seemed like we got a small, medium, and large. Small being New York, the large being the mountainous region where everyone's sniping, and then Siege of Cairo, and the other one being kind of the urban inside, uh, smaller battlecom maps, but they at least still had tanks in them. I was kind of disappointed the last one, that New York City map didn't have any kind of armor or tanks in it. Obviously, a huge issue myself and other people are having were hit detection issues with netcode, and you know, I know a lot of people probably just be like, it's bad connection. It's not bad connection. It's bad netcode. Like on a good day, like when we're playing, it's fine. You can be shooting someone and just take them out fine. Other times you're playing it and you're like putting whole magazines in people, shooting them in the sides of the head, and or like shooting a whole magazine in them, and then your guy will go to reload, and then they'll drop dead, or they'll run behind a corner and drop dead. And I've had this to me happen to me too, where I'd take hits and then they'd stop shooting, and by the time I'd get around the corner, like that's when all the hits hit me, and I'd drop and go down, and that's it doesn't feel good when you're playing at times. So unless you have a really good connection with the net code they got going on right now, it can feel pretty fucking rough to play. So they definitely need to work on pulling that a little bit in. I'm gonna do some things to rein in my connection and take any guesswork out of it, but I definitely know I'm not the only one having issues there, and that's something they got to work on big time. But some of the other things, like the destruction, definitely seemed better on some of the maps than others. The New York map, I wasn't really impressed. They got the bridge exploding there, but I think the Siege of Cairo, and I'm gonna pull up the name of that other map here real quick, so I can just know off the top of my head the mountain one. That's not what I wanted. Liberation, Peak, Cairo, and Iberian Offensive, and Empire State. So yeah, Empire State's obviously New York. That's the smallest map. Like at first, I was having fun playing it, but the more I played it, the more it kind of burnt me out, and I didn't want to play it. Part of that's because it didn't have vehicles on it. The other part of it was the destruction was kind of lackluster on that map, which left a lot of avenues you couldn't like blow open ways through, and just some other strange gameplay choices. So you had a lot of potential for corner campers, shotguns, stuff like that. So real easy to just get shot from every direction if your team's not helping. So and no recourse to like bringing armor and stuff in. So that was probably honestly my least favorite of the maps there. Um, the Siege of Cairo was my favorite, but that brings in another issue is the roof campers on that one. They knew that there was people roof camping in the first one, and it was kind of an exploit that people shouldn't be up there. You can't just naturally get up there, but people would, figure out a way to get up there and put a spawn beacon, and it fundamentally broke the way the map worked. And the first weekend wasn't too bad. You had people figuring it out, but by the second weekend, the fact that they haven't patched the roofs with some kind of area that's off limits, it was so much worse. And by the end of the beta this last weekend, Siege Cairo was basically broken if you weren't taking advantage of the roof glitches there, because you could just basically get on the roof by 8 and then parachute in, and it was pretty impossible to stop you. So other than that, Iberian Offensive was decent. I believe that's some gameplay we're watching right now. Um, and then Liberation Peak was kind of the mountainous sniper. But Liberation Peak was our biggest map, and that was a smaller map. Like even flying around in like the jet and the helicopters, it felt small compared to older Battlefield games. So that's a little concerning to me. I'm hoping we got some larger maps out there that they're holding back, but I'm not holding my breath. I don't think they really deserve the goodwill at this point of us trying to make excuses for them. So hopefully they'll fix the netcode stuff and they got some better maps on the way for us. But the other kind of things I noticed about the game is I really hope they go back just kind of the closed, fixed classes. Like I was having some fun with the open classes, but the problems I think with that, like I think the benefits of having the closed classes outweigh the benefits of not, and I kind of wish they would do something about the assault class. I don't know that having two primary weapons is what the assault class needs. I'm not sure how I feel about them breaking the ammo box and the health box and putting that in one, and now you run that on one class, and then you just have this kind of run and gun Call of Duty S class. Like I would prefer them just kind of make assault back the way it used to be, either give assault ammo and support health or vice versa. Fix the classes, go back to something a little more core like that. And if you want to have an open class like single mode where you can mess around with it, like that's fine. But like the core of the game should be what Battlefield players have always known. Like I've played these games since the very beginning. I was networking computers together and building my own computers. I played 1942 back in the day. And it's crazy to see how far the game's really come. But it's also kind of sad to see how we've learned lessons and then unlearned them. And then now we're coming back and like relearning old lessons. And, there's a lot of features we're missing out of Battlefield 4 that I want to see a return in this that are kind of disappointing. Like one, when you're exiting a tank, you used to be able to press the directional pad and exit the tank on whatever side that you wanted. Why don't we have that feature in a modern game? Also, the leaning system's kind of trash and broken. Like, we're implementing an old game mechanics we're struggling to implement, and that's just pathetic. Like, do better. You've got all these studios and stuff working on the game, and I think that could actually be a problem too, where you get too many cooks in the kitchen, and like some of the destruction on these maps, it just doesn't. It feels like some of these maps were even designed by different teams, and I could be wrong about that, but you have like I shoot the Iberian Offensive and Siege of Cairo maps that are highly destructive, but then Empire State is got less destruction there. So that was also just kind of weird because it changes the way the game plays in those maps, and it doesn't necessarily feel as coherent. Like you're going with some kind of bigger destruction, like you can destroy the bridge, but it's like the rest of the destruction on the map's kind of lackluster. rather have smaller versions of destruction like the Iberian Offensive. But it, as close as we are to launch, it feels like the game still kind of has an identity issue. And that's the most concerning thing to me is that they can't even decide if they want how they want classes yet. And that's causing identity issues within the classes. And some of the classes, like engineer, are just like they used to be and feel great and haven't really changed. And, there's some issues with like RPGs and splash damage and stuff. The splash damage is like non existent. So you'll see people walking through explosives all day long, which is kind of insane. But, that could be potentially changed with ammunition types and a hardcore mode. So I'm not going to gripe too much on that at the moment. I know you got things that you got to balance, but like it is ridiculous sometimes. You'll see people completely engulfed in an explosion and just walk it off like they're fucking walking off a stab wound in New York City. Like it's just it ain't right. And it's jarring when you're playing a video game and you watch a dude blow up and then him walk off, and it's like I understand why people want to throw a fucking controller through their wall at that point, but hopefully they'll be able to fix up the. Hopefully they'll be able to fix up some of that. I feel like the splash damage is a little bit off. They just need to tweak it a little bit, and it could be better. But most of the issues with the game are just little tweaks that need to be done. Netcode needs a little tweaking. They better give us our server browser. Myself and I know a lot of others would be fucking pissed. And the way they're kind of posturing, they keep doing this kind of, oh, it's your war, your game, but then keep acting like they know better. Like, oh, we know better with the classes. That's why we're not going to make a decision on the classes and just give the fans what they want. Like, oh, server, we think we got the server browser. Why do you even want the server browser? They say shit like that, and that really doesn't give me faith in them at all. Honestly, I think it's one of the better Battlefield games we've seen in the last couple iterations, and it's kind of sad. And I think if they take this and work on it and learn and move this forward, we could possibly have a good Battlefield game again. But I think it needs a lot of work, and it's not going to happen unless we hold their feet to the fire. I think the vehicles too, they're a little underpowered, but that's something I think can be fixed with attachments and add-ons that they've had in other games like reactive armor, mods for your tank and stuff. So I'm not gonna complain too much about that. My main concerns are their netcode hit detection, having our server browser, and them kind of maintaining and putting back um, some of the great features that were in 4 that are missing from this one. Like I personally, I want to see the counter knife. I would like to see the counter knife come back from front knives, but I don't know about that. Plus, I'd also like to see, option or, a perk or ability or something where you can use a handgun while you're being drugged. Um, I think that's kind of an oversight that's not in there where you can drag people. So that's honestly one of the better mechanics that they've added. You can drag someone out of the line of fire. But it'd be cool if that person could use a side. Because they make that animation so long where your guy's just kind of standing there with a fucking stim in his hand. And it's really obnoxious because, I'd say 7 or 8 out of 10 times while you're standing there waiting for him to stick your buddy, you just get shot. So it's like either make the animation quicker where you just inject the guy a lot quicker, or give the guy who's on the ground a chance to defend the person who's trying to save him. Because otherwise, you just see, and it's not going to save you every time, but it'd be nice to have a fighting chance. You know, that's something I don't think they're going to add in, but it'd be nice to be wrong and see a change there. I don't think they can do much on the destruction in the current maps, like New York City, the one we're watching here. But as long as I go forward thinking and being mindful about a congruent kind of destruction, I think it would be more coherent and feel better for gameplay because some walls you can just set C4 on and you blow right through the wall and you run through and it feels badass and you're having a good time. And other times you put a C4 on a wall that you should totally be able to blow right through and enter into another room and it's just like nah. And you get a black smudge on the wall and it's kind of like it's definitely not the destruction of Bad Company, one or two old school Battlefield games where you could just level whole towns. And the frustrating part is like maps like Liberation Peak, like most of the town there is completely destructible. Like you can just demolish whole buildings there. So they got it down and they understand that premise in some of their maps, but other maps they just can't really pull it off. And I understand there's a little more going on in the New York City map, but it could also be built in a way where there's a little more destruction. Feels like some things just won't be. Like that van that just blew up there, that'll be there for the rest of the game. And that van will stop light machine gun bullets and shit. Like, no, it won't. Like, you can blow up a tank carcass, but you can't blow up a truck carcass. Like, it doesn't feel congruent. Now, that's a lot of like complaints and stuff, and I do want to say like, hey, this is a great start, and give them credit where credit's due. Like I think overall, we have the chance and the opportunity for the best Battlefield game that we've had in a while, but unfortunately, I feel like they're going to make us hold their feet to the fire to make sure that we get a good game. Because if it's 9 maps in multiplayer and a campaign that's maybe mid at best. I'm not holding out for the campaign. From the things they've said, I'm definitely hesitant to get excited for the campaign. So if the campaign sucks and it's just that in a free to play battle royale mode and then the multiplayer mode, like that'll be kind of slim pickings. That'll be a hard sell, especially for $70 to $100. So I think they're not stepping out with their strongest foot forward. And I know I'm also one of the other people, like, there's a flood of people saying, oh, it's so good, we're so back. And I just think most of those people have been starved for a decent shooter that they've forgotten what was so great about Battlefield 4. They had it dialed in from like knives to counter knives. We had all the camos, tons of guns. Yeah, there are still some issues with that game. You go back and play it now, it's still a little dated, but it's like, the amount of vehicles and stuff that were in there and how it all fleshed out and worked together is really impressive. And I don't feel like Battlefield 6 quite holds a candle to that yet. And even the destruction in Battlefield 4 was kind of a step down from like Bad Company and stuff where you could just destroy everything. So I feel it's more on par destruction wise with 4, and I would like to see a little more Bad Company. But we'll see what kind of maps we get and how they support it afterwards. What kind of things come through with the portal mode. I'm trying to be optimistic about how it all shakes out. But I also don't trust EA or Dice. They fucking have fucked up plenty of times. So I'm not gonna sit here and just kiss their ass. I'm excited to play the full release, see what games and stuff are in there. Um, I know me and my brothers will be out there playing it when it comes out more than likely. And hopefully we don't have to bitch at them too much, but they do have quite a bit to fix, and not a lot of time to fix it. Plus, that's not even touching on how they plan on monetizing this game. That's kind of a big concern to me too. We know they're going to have a battle pass. We know they're going to have other shit, and how is that going to fundamentally affect um, how the game plays out as far as progression and stuff. Because I feel like a lot of games like Killing Floor 3 has this problem. Like I was looking like how many camos are actually in the game that you don't have to pay extra money to get, because they boast like gun customization, but like and you can customize your gun, but how many camos are in the game? How many camos can you unlock for free? In Killing Floor, it's like I went through, it's like three, and it's like the rest you have to pay for their battle pass. So looking back at like old school Battlefield 4, it's like you have dozens of guns and dozens of camos for every gun, and then you can add your own homemade like you can make your own kind of like stickers for them and put those on the gun and stuff. So they had all of that stuff back then. This is game mechanics from 10, 15 years ago, and we we aren't seeing a lot of that coming back. And they very well could have some of this stuff up their sleeve, but we need to be vocal if they don't have it, because I think it's bullshit. You know, if their own game could have all of these features that we enjoyed, 10 years ago, I don't want to uh, be nickel and dimed and have to buy that shit back nowadays. Like, oh, we'll give you, 3 or 5 gun camos in the game, but the rest, the really good ones, the fun ones, are going to be in the battle pass, or there's going to be a bunch of immersion breaking bullshit in the battle pass. And I think they're smart enough in trying to lean away from that they might not make that mistake like Call of Duty did. But like I said, I don't fucking trust them. So I expect the worst, and I'm hoping for the best when it comes to battle passes and monetization there. So we'll definitely be reporting on that though when it comes out. I'll be letting you know what kind of shady fucking shit they're doing, and hopefully it's none. But this is EA we're talking about, for real. This isn't a small company. This is fucking EA, a money grubbing company. And if we give them an inch, they'll take a mile. So don't forget that, Try not to get too caught up in the haze of having fun. Because honestly, like, I had a lot of fun with the beta. And I know I'm talking a lot of trash right now, but I had fun playing this beta with friends and family that I haven't played games with like this in quite some time. And yeah, we had some really frustrating matches because of the net code and other dog shit going on in the game. And if they can tighten that up, man, we will be fucking back. And it will be a fun time. And I'll be happy to be there. But like I said, my intention is hold their feet to the fire so that we get the most bang for our buck. Because I remember when we used to get like PVE game modes and spec op operations that you could play with your friends and stuff like that. You basically, a full package back in the day for a video game was a 3-course meal. You got a campaign, you got a multiplayer like a PvP offering, and then you usually, a game would give you some kind of PvE offer, like a co-op or a horde mode or something. And it didn't even have to get too crazy with those 3 things. But hey, if it had those 3 things, man, that gives you a lot of opportunity to play the game by yourself and play with friends in a couple different ways. And we've gotten kind of away from that, and that's disappointing to me. I miss the days of couch co-op. I miss the days of 4-player PVE kind of co-op games. I play a lot of those myself. They're not gone, but they're not as many. Or that's the main focus of the game, like Payday, Killing Floor. Those games are just co-op focused. So, and that's not a problem. That's just but a lot of games used to have that as just a mode in the game. Like Gears of War, for example. You'd have a horde mode, or like Titanfall. You've got a frontier defense like horde mode and a multiplayer mode, and they don't all have to be in there at launch. But it's like that. That was kind of the expected 3-course meal of a game. And I don't think we're going to get that. Even the old Battlefields had the PvE versions of the game. They had PvP, PvE, and a single player. And then we lost PvE, and they had single player and campaign, and then we lost the campaign, and now they're bringing it back, and so it's like, no, don't take the excuse of less is more. Wow, I want to see a full 3-course meal again. Are we gonna get that? I'm not gonna fucking hold my breath. I'm not. I'm just not gonna hold my breath on that. I hope we do, but I don't think that we will, unfortunately. So I would love for them to prove me wrong on that, and we'll know more when it releases. But most of that stuff they can fix. It's netcode, making sure you release with enough content, fix your fucking classes, fix the splash damage. Don't over monetize us. That's not too much to ask for. But these damn companies, can't keep their fucking greedy mitts to themselves. So, we have to sit here and bust our balls. And, I hope that changes. But EA's put some of the most fucking atrocious monetization out there. And the only reason they reversed course on it is because people held their feet to the fire and busted their balls. So if they do the same thing with this game and fuck it up with battle passes and 90% of the customization as far as cosmetic is through some paywall battle pass, like, yeah, we need to make a stink about that because that was just in the game uh, 10 years ago. Don't let them sell this shit back to you. Because if they do that shit, I'm going to be complaining about it. I know a lot of younger people, it's like they don't, that's all they've known is these modern games that are like this. But it wasn't always like this. They weren't always nickel and diming you. And yeah, there's DLCs and shit, but it's like they had to have a decent amount of content to actually sell you the DLC. Now they want to sell you a character skin for the price of a game, and I'm not about that. I think if you're gonna sell skins in a game, it should be fairly cheap, a few dollars here and there, and that way more people can afford to enjoy it and indulge in the skin. That was a big turnoff for me playing Resident Evil Siege, or not Resident Evil, Rainbow Six Siege, was that there's all these elite um, skins for the operators and stuff that cost like 10, $15, and it's like, this is ridiculous. You got 20, 30 operators in the game, and then you're like, you want people to spend hundreds of dollars on this game just for some skins that we used to like unlock from the game, and that's pretty pathetic. It's just predatory nature of these companies trying to nickel and dime us, and that's why our game's stuck these days. So don't let them get away with it. Fucking make a stink when they fuck your games up. Because I've watched Ubisoft destroy most of my favorite fucking franchises, and I've watched them fuck up Battlefield, and I don't want this one to be shitty. I want them to listen to this critical feedback, and I want them to make a better game, a game that Battlefield fans are going to enjoy. That actually goes back to the roots, has the features of some of these root games that we, used to enjoy. Now it seems like they don't even remember what made their games great. And it's like, man, you had all the features back then. You had tanks, you had leans, you had a good class system, everything felt on. You had a great weapon customization system. Now you're like putting this point system in and trying to balance the guns that way. I mean, shit, they had OP weapons with like the frag round shotgun and the piglet grenade launcher and the Barrett 50 cal. And those were like OP weapon pickups that you couldn't resupply, but you could occasionally find them on spots on the map. Like, we're not going to see anything like that in this. I really like that game feature, and I think it gave struggling teams that are having a tough time pushing, as maybe they had a less veteran team that they're playing with, one guy could then take the grenade launcher and try and push up with it and give his team an edge. Where they don't have, I think, the balls to take the risk in their games that they used to, and that's kind of a problem. I think that's what made some of the games great before, and so I don't. I think it's going to be a very safe battlefield. They're going to try and add some guns into it, and I hope they don't fuck up the game by trying to over nerf guns and stuff like that. I can already see that with the shotgun. People have been complaining, oh, the shotgun's too powerful, so it kills people at like point blank range. That's about it. Like, yeah, I've gotten kills probably up to like 20 yards with the shotgun in the game, and that's not unbelievable for a shotgun. Like, they can actually be lethal much further than that. So I don't think that's too powerful. Past 20, 30 yards, like I'm having to shoot a guy 3, 4, 5 times with it and have video of me doing as such playing. And so I don't think the shotgun's really overpowered, but yeah, people complain about it because most of the maps so far are close quarter maps. So the shotgun should be effective in close quarters and is, but I'm worried, and they're already saying they're going to nerf it, that, we're going to get in this cycle again of them just nerfing guns into oblivion where they're no longer fun to use anymore. And I hope that's not the case. I do worry about that, though, that's going to be a problem. They've struggled with that in other games, but I think, like, for example, Battlefield 4 was pretty well balanced, even with their OP weapons. Like, I love getting my hands on the Barrett 50 cal once in a while, but it didn't make you unkillable or so overpowered you couldn't be taken out. And so I think they had the ability to take more risks back then, and that's why we had funner games. And I think that's an issue that this one's going to have. It has a little bit of an identity crisis. It doesn't really want to take any risks. It does have some serious gameplay issues and some exploits already. I mean, when you're making us do all this secure boot stuff, and some people are bricking their PCs because they have to go into their BIOS and change secure boot and they don't know what settings they're messing with, and now their computer doesn't want to start like that for a game, that's problematic. That's going to piss people off, and it's going to piss them off even more is when they get in the game and they're still fucking cheaters. As we all saw videos, and I've got a few video clips of me playing against some cheaters where I don't think it was a netcode issue. I think it was a cheat issue where that they just happen to know where people were at all times and were acting accordingly. You can kind of tell when somebody is cheating that they're very confident. They're not taking cover. They're just walking out in the gunfire and headshotting everybody in a few seconds. So you can kind of tell those people already. They're out there already in the beta, and they shouldn't be. But look, I get it. You can't get rid of all the cheaters, but it doesn't look good when you're making people go through. Because hey, I would go through all these extra steps if they worked, and I would be happy, and I'd shut my mouth if there's, almost no cheaters in the game. But there's still a fair amount, and I think they're still going to have cheater issues and an issue with that come launch time. So all their little extra security things aren't really doing anything. They're just inconveniencing their customers more. So that's why I'm generally not for that stuff because, like I said, if it worked, I would be for it. But if it doesn't, you're just actually inconveniencing the people that paid money for your product, which is not something I would want to do to my customers while not like stopping the problem, the cheater, you know? So it's like if the cheater's going to be there with or without the program, I would rather not inconvenience my customer in the meantime. So I don't think they're making the right move there. That's not a surprise to me though. Um, so I hope, I want this one to be good. As critical as I am of it, the reason I'm so critical of it is because I want a good Battlefield game again. I want to play with the boys again and be like, oh, we're so back. This is so fun. But I can already see, like, shit, dude, this makes me want to play things in 4. And yeah, it's just a beta. We don't have all the pistols and all the guns and all the maps and all the this and all the that. But a month, a month and a half, 2 months from release, I'm a little worried. I'm genuinely a little worried. Whereas a lot of people are like optimistic with the beta and super happy. And one thing I'll say is like they've had way worse betas. I played the beta for 3, and I played the beta for 4, and 4 was a little better than 3, but they were both rough. Like 3 especially was like really bad. You had under the map cheaters snaking around, shooting you up through the ground. Like I don't think I bought 3 at release because it was so fucked up when it came out. But they did actually put a lot of work into fixing Battlefield 3, and same with 4. Like after release, they did spend the time cleaning it up, and we got a good game out of both those games. Um, I'm hoping we don't have the same problem here. Um, but honestly, like the glitches and the minor issues I saw in the Battlefield 6 beta, they weren't as bad as the Battlefield 3 or 4 beta. So I will give them that. I think they have a stronger foundation here to work from than they did with some of their stronger games in the past, which makes me optimistic and hopeful in a way. But like I said, I'm not going to come on here and kiss DICE's ass or EA's ass. Like, they've got a lot of fucking making up to us, the gamers, to do, in my opinion, before we go, hey, they're coming around. They're actually listening to us rather than fighting us on everything that we want and acting like they know better. The class system, the server browsers, like, give us what we want, and we're not all going to agree on shit like sniper rifle sweet spots. I think it's too early, really, for me to say definitively whether I like the sniper rifle sweet spot or not. And part of that's because we've only seen one sniper rifle, and it's a kind of a mid sniper rifle. It's not bad, but it's nothing to shake a stick at. It's nothing that gets me super excited about the snipe. Like I get a little. The sniping definitely feels a little more solid. Definitely feels more solid than 2042. But the fact that they fucked it up so bad in 2042 makes me not trust them very much. So, especially when we only have one sniper rifle right now. When we have a couple more sniper rifles in the game, and we can actually see how they're utilizing that sweet spot, and if the mechanic genuinely works or if it's fucking broken, um, I think time will tell on that one. And I will report back on that once we play the full edition. Some I will give my full thoughts on the sweet spot on the sniper rifle there and see if I like it or not. Because I honestly like the sweet spot a little bit in Battlefield 1. I thought it had a decent place, but you had a different kind of sniping vibe and mechanics in Battlefield 1. Single shots, like all bolt actions. Um, you needed a way to kind of give them variety from each other. And this one, not so much. So I think the sweet spot might be out of place in this one. Um, it would have been nice to see that a little more. Like they kind of had it with the 50 cal and Battlefield 2042, but the sniping in that was just so fucked up it wasn't worth playing. Um, which could be said for the majority of Battlefield 2042. I feel like when 2042 really started to hit their stride and came back, that's when they shut it down and stopped supporting it, which was also disappointing. But and that's my other concern, I guess, with Battlefield 6 here is that we want them to make a good game and we want them to support it for another 4 years, and they're already kind of dropping hints that in 5 years they want to go to yearly releases. So maybe they will get all the issues with the game ironed out over the next 4 years, and they'll use this game as a platform to just keep updating this game for 4 years, and then they can build off of that for yearly updates. But that's the most positive interpretation I see of that. Otherwise, I just see them kind of already getting excited, putting the cart before the horse, and really just getting excited about milking their user base every single year, which has never worked for a Battlefield. I don't think it's going to work for a Battlefield, and I think they'll just alienate and likely destroy their community again if they do go that route. So that already gives me concerns that they're not really concerned about the community. They're not giving us the game we want for the right reasons. They're doing it for the wrong reasons, and they will give us the bare minimum that they can get away with. So do not forget about that, because the bare minimum you let them get away with is what you'll get. So that's why I'm critical of the game, and I want it to be a better game, and why I point out so many of the flaws in it. Because I want them to make a better game. I want that this should have every single beloved feature in 4 and then some. And we should be seeing a little more in the beta. That does really concern me when people are. I didn't get to play the alpha, but people are telling me in the alpha there's more guns. Like the M60 was in the alpha, but it wasn't in the beta. Like and I think there's another sniper rifle in the beta or the alpha that wasn't in the beta. We got to play with like one handgun too, so it makes me concerned that there's going to be congruency there when it's not really well tested, and I don't trust them to figure it out without testing. So when the game comes out, I expect there to be balancing issues, and I hope that they can appropriately address that without then overcompensating and breaking guns like the shotgun. So time will tell on that one. We're not going to know for sure until the game releases. So that's just kind of my thoughts on the beta there. I'm being critical and hopeful, but I'm also being optimistic and trying to give a nudge in the right direction, because I know a lot of people feel similarly that these maps are small for Battlefield. I've heard a lot of people complain about the netcode and the hit detection. All us old Battlefield fans, like, we want the server browser. Trying to take that away, it's going to be unacceptable. Other than that, we want maximum destruction, more destruction, more destruction. You can't go with enough destruction. I think even some of the better destruction maps don't have enough destruction. When you can topple a whole building, but there's one brick wall left, like, come on, just knock that last one down. Like, or even some of the Siege of Cairo maps where it's like, oh, you can blow the whole face off the building, but you can't take the building down. Like, just let me take the building down, and then you wouldn't have the rooftop camper problem. That used to be the beloved way to handle someone camping in or on top of a building. Just get rid of the fucking building. That's a Battlefield way of doing it. But now it's like, you can only destroy part of the building, and now they're glitched up there with a fucking little spawn beacon, and you'll never get them out of there for the rest of the fucking game. So, they got to make a decision on the rooftop campers. Like, either going to let us take down the buildings or get rid of them, or make it easy access to the rooftops for everybody. Those are your three options, and you kind of got to make a fucking choice on it, DICE. And I hope they do, because they didn't make any choice on it between the first beta and the second beta weekend. We still had rooftop campers from the first weekend. We knew that was a problem first weekend, and the second weekend, it was actually much worse, and they didn't do any. Like, they could have thrown up some zones over that area, and if you're in those zones, like, you're technically off the map. There's zones already on the map like that, so it wouldn't have been unfeasible or difficult for them to just do that, but they didn't. They decided not to do that between the first beta weekend and the second beta weekend, so it was still a problem. So they have to make a decision on those or a couple of their. In my opinion, like Siege of Cairo is one of my favorite maps. So new like is totally broken though if you just let rooftop campers do their thing. So definitely got to work on that, and hopefully we can get a class and weapon attachment system that doesn't feel totally fucked up and not working properly. So. Um, Other than that, I think, those are my main issues with the game. The things I do like, I think the graphics look great in this one. Most of the vehicles feel fairly decent. Like, I think they need some adjustment. The tank turning rate needs to be adjusted a little bit. There needs to be some adjustments with the Apache angling and turning as well. And I think the Apache health needs to be increased. They're just paper thin, which you spend all this time just trying to get into Apache, and three guys light you up with rockets as soon as you're flying out of the base, and you're just dead. So, like I said, hopefully that can be fixed with some reactive armor, perks, and bonuses for those vehicles and stuff. But I do think they need to boost the health on the Apache a little bit, make it a little bit more fun when you get that. But overall, I think they've got a good foundation on most of these things: the weapons, the classes, the vehicles. There's a decent foundation there, but it needs to be fucking reined in. It needs to be dialed in. They need to get their fucking heads in the game. If they're gonna come out here and try and compete with Call of Duty and these other, big games and win back their own fans they've pissed off, like they don't they've already shot their foot off and stepped over dollars to pick up fucking pennies. They need to come back and they need to be strong with this one. So they really need to listen to their fan base and take notice and get a dialed in, feeling game where it feels solid. It feels like Battlefield. And it's almost there. That is one reason I'm excited for it. It's almost there. But, it's not there yet. And yeah, I know it's a beta. They still have time to add stuff, but we're also what it releases. I think October 10th was when it released. Let me just double check that number. Battlefield, yeah, October 10th is the release date. So they've got less than 2 months um, for the release of this game. And yeah, this isn't probably their most up to date build. There are probably multiple builds, ahead of this one that they're actually working on. Um, but it's also concerning that, hey, we're a month and less than a month, less than 2 months, let's say a month and a half to 2 months away from the full release of the game. And we only get to see one sniper rifle, one pistol, you know, almost half the maps, which that concerns me too. Is almost half the maps, and they're all on the smaller side. Even Liberation Peak here is not as big as some of the other maps, and we're supposed to get Operation Firestorm back, which is a larger map. It wasn't a bad map, it was definitely up there on one of the funner maps to play, but I think the old throwback maps. I think they should have 9 new maps plus some old throwback maps on top of that. So nine's kind of a short number in my opinion, especially when it just seems like they're trying to make it a smaller scale. Like Rush isn't 64 players, which the old school Rushes were 64 players, and some of the smaller modes were like 32 players, I think. So it was like 16 on 16. Maybe I'm wrong about Rush being. No, I'm pretty sure some of the Rush maps were 32 on 32, like Metro and stuff. So he had some really wild shootouts, but I could be wrong about those exact numbers. Either way, Rush now is 12 on 12, so it just feels smaller. That's a whole squad less. That's 3 squads on 3 squads instead of 4 squads on 4 squads. 32 or 16 versus 16, but 32 and 32. You're talking 8 squads versus 8 squads. So 3 squads versus 3 squads is a huge difference versus 8 squads versus 8 squads. So um, that concerns me that their engine's not going to be capable of doing some of the bigger scale battles and stuff where they're not going to have it optimized, I should say, in a way where they can do some of the larger battles. And I could be wrong about that. I hope that I'm wrong about that. But the fact that everything's kind of smaller scale is leaning towards that, which doesn't give it as much of the Battlefield vibe. It still feels kind of like they're flirting with Call of Duty and trying to be um, as much like Call of Duty as they can be without being Call of Duty. And I think that lends kind of to the identity crisis that we were talking about earlier. That they can't really decide what scale they want to go at. Like they want to do some small scale stuff, but some large scale stuff. And four even had some of these issues to a degree as well. But it felt like everything was a little more cohesive and gelled. And there's a larger um, picture. Someone had a larger view of what was going on there, and it all kind of fit together. I'm not sure that we're going to get that out of this one. I feel already like it's kind of disjointed some of the maps, and they don't, like I said, feel like they're even produced by the same teams, which they might not be. So that'll be kind of interesting to see. I think once we see more of the campaign and who designed what parts of the game, we'll know a little bit more about, post mortem. But hopefully it's not a post mortem. I do think this game does have a chance of like coming back and doing well, but I think EA also has just as much of a chance at shit in the bed and pissing off their whole fucking fan base, and then abandoning the game. It's not like they haven't done those exact things in the past before. So that's why I'm I'm cautiously optimistic about the new Battlefield game. I'm excited for some of the new features, and we will be playing it. But I'm also going to hold their feet to the fire when they fuck up and do things that are stupid. And I think we all got to. And don't make excuses for a fucking $1 billion company. You look bad when you do it. You look fucking retarded. So if your brothers and shit are saying, hey, there's a fucking problem with the game, like, stand by them and be like, yeah, I do want to see, a better product. We all just want a better product for all of us. And yeah, I agree. We're not all going to agree on what that all looks like. And even with the class situation, you're going to have people that say one way, you're going to have others that say another. But it is what separates it from other games. And I think that maintaining the closed classes in 9 out of the 10 of the game modes is the best way to go there. I just wish they had as much confidence in their game as some of their fans do. And I hope that that changes over time and that they can actually, build a good game and listen to their consumer and their player base and stuff. But they've taken the opposite stance before. We'll see if they actually listen to us this time. I'm not going to hold my breath, but like I said, I'm going to stay cautiously optimistic, and hopefully we get a decent game here. I'm excited because, like I said, there's good foundation there, but I'm also very weary because EA is just fucking evil. Like if they could add predatory fucking gambling mechanics into this game and get away with it, they 110% would. But they know they can't get away with that after shit like Battlefront and other flops of theirs. So I think the only reason they're coming back and kind of giving us a modicum of what we want is because their wallet got hurt, by us not really purchasing Battlefield 5 or 2042 as much because they're just commercial flops as games. Um, they were just not as fun. There's issues there. There's PR issues with some of those games as well, and they did not handle them well. And so I really think this one, like, they're fighting for their lives, so to speak. They've got to fight to get their player base back with this one because they fucked up so many times in the past. And I hope they can pull it off. I really do. I want them to be successful in this, but I'm not going to hold my breath, and I just don't trust them. So I'll be reporting on this more and just kind of going over, the actual release on October 10th when this comes out, and we'll see what's changed from the beta and going forward. But I'm a little concerned, you know. My first thoughts on the beta are I'm excited and concerned at the same time, you know. I think they've got some good stuff to work with, but I can definitely see where this game could go in the wrong direction very quickly and turn into just another slop fucking game we forget about. So I think that's pretty much covers everything I've got to say about the Battlefield 6 beta right now. I wrapped around back to a few of those and kind of long-winded, but as a long-term Battlefield fan, like I really do want to see them get this one right. But I'm concerned that they're gonna fuck it up. You know, I think they're more likely to fucking fuck it up and drop the ball than to get it right. But we'll see. We'll see. Fingers crossed. I want to be wrong on that one, but we will see. Doesn't look like many arguments from the chat there either. So I think we're gonna wrap up this stream for the day. But I need to get a little food in me. I think we're gonna pop back on here in a little bit and do a little stream of the Dawn of War Definitive Edition. Is that what it is? Yeah, the Dawn of War 40k, Warhammer Dawn of War 40k. Fuck, Warhammer 40k Dawn of War Definitive Edition. I played a lot of that game growing up, and I fucking love that game. Not the Definitive Edition, just the regular original Dawn of War. So I just got the Definitive Edition, downloaded and up and running today. I'm going to go over and check that out a little bit. If you guys are interested in that game at all, come and check it out. We're going to take a little, a 30-minute, little 30-minute intervention here. Not intervention, a little submission, a 30-minute submission, intermission. God damn, I can't fucking word right now at all. We're going to take a little 30-minute intermission. I'm going to grab some food. We're going to come back and play a little bit of the Dawn of War Definitive Edition. So if you guys are interested in that game at all and how that's doing, come check it out. Otherwise, if you guys haven't followed already, please give my channel a follow. We're trying to get up to 100 followers. Still early on right now. Really appreciate any help and support that you guys can give. Every follower makes a big difference right now. So yeah, if you like this kind of gaming content and stuff, and want to see more of Battlefield 6 or Hitman, other games we play, VR. I also love RTS games, so we're gonna go check out the definitive edition of Warhammer 40K. So if that interests you at all, stick around or check back in 30 minutes, and we'll be over on Dawn of War playing some of that.